You may think that cinematography would be all about using a camera. However, the most important part of a cinematographer's job is actually lighting. Scenes are lit to create a look that tonally suits the story, to provide a consistent source of illumination that doesn't change or affect continuity, and to give the camera enough light to be able to properly expose. In this video, I'll show you two different lighting setups for two different looks, and compare how you can get away with using only natural light, or how you can elevate that look a bit more by supplementing natural light in a motivated way. This video is sponsored by Nanlite, whose great lighting products and film equipment I use to make this video. Lighting can take two forms. It can be more expressionist and exaggerated to completely elevate the footage out of the real world, or it can be naturalistic, where although artificial lights are used, they are used more subtly in a motivated way to keep the story within the bounds of realism. Today we'll focus on creating a naturalistic look by using motivated lighting. What exactly is that? Motivated lighting involves first examining the natural light sources that are present in the space, and then placing additional artificial film lights to supplement the natural light. Or sometimes, if a source doesn't exist, cinematographers will create an imaginary motivation for it in their head, outside of the frame of the shot, and then add artificial light using that idea. There are three things to consider when lighting in this way: the direction of the light, the quality of the light, and the color of the light. Let's keep these three factors in mind when we go about creating two different looks: a brighter illuminated high-key look, and a more shadowy low-key look. Let's start by showing how we can create a high-key look without many shadows on our subject, using only the natural available light. When only using ambient light in a space, it's very important to be aware of what the natural light is doing. I chose to shoot the natural light look at a specific time in the morning where the sun was still low enough in the sky that it would angle in through the main window in the space. I checked the forecast beforehand and made sure it was a sunny day. Light scouting, weather observation, and scheduling is very important when dealing with only natural light. Next, we need to think about direction. In this room, the main sources of light comes from a large window on the side and a smaller window from the back. Another important part of natural lighting is how you position the subject. Rather than placing her so that she is directly in front of the window and the light source is totally front on and flat, I've positioned her so that she is sidelit by the sun coming through the window. Also, placing the main source of light directly behind the camera is normally not a good idea, as it may cast a shadow of the camera onto the subject. This positioning of the subject means the natural light comes through and creates contrast on one side of the face. Also, this little window provides a small backlight which separates her from the background. Now that the direction is sorted, we can focus on the quality of the light. I've used a muslin curtain to diffuse the intensity of the light, softening any shadows and reducing the brightness of the illumination outside the window. When setting the exposure level for a high-key look, I've focused on the illumination of the skin by increasing exposure, in this case with an ND filter, until I'm happy with the level of light on the face. This may mean that the area by the windows blows out a little or turns to pure white, which isn't ideal, but we can't control that. Not without lights anyway. Finally, the color of our light is that of the natural sun, which also can't be changed. One reason I usually don't turn on any overhead house lights when using natural light is because mixing the color of artificial, warmer ceiling bulbs and natural daylight may throw off how color is recorded. So there we go, a high-key look using only natural light. One reason that DPs use lights to still create a naturalistic look is because of this curtain in the background. It's a bit blown out. In other words, the natural light from outside is much too bright and turns to white, lost information. This is not pleasing to the eye. So, to create a better look, I will start by setting the exposure of the camera so that it's balanced to the light in the background by only looking at this window. Now it's not blowing out, however it's much too dark to be a high-key look. So we need to add light. Let's start by thinking about direction. Our strongest source of light is coming from the window. We'll call this our key. Then some of that lighting from the window is coming inside and bouncing back as a soft ambient source. We'll call this our fill. Then finally, ambient light from that little window is hitting the back of her head. We'll call that our backlight. Using 3 light sources in this way is called 3-point lighting. Now that we've identified where the light is coming from, let's add film lights that mimic the direction of the natural sources. The 3 lights that I'm working with, a Forza 500B2, a Forza 60B, and a PavoTube 6C are all products from Nanlite, the sponsor of this video. Earlier this year I worked as a DP on a feature film, and on that job we only used LED lights. LEDs offer a high quality output of light, flexible color temperature adjustments, are easy to run with a small crew, and most can be run off house power or batteries. Nanlite's 500B2 is a great example of a higher output LED. It's quick and easy to set up, can easily be diffused using accessories like Nanlite's parabolic softbox, and you can immediately dial in your exact color temperature and now even adjust the amount of green or magenta so that you can perfectly match up to natural light or create a tinted look. It also comes with lots of built-in presets like a TV look, which makes it quick and easy to achieve a lighting effect. If you want to check out Nanlite's products, I've linked their site in the description below. With our lights on hand, let's think about the quality of the light that we want. Because the sunlight coming through the big window is strongest, we'll put our biggest light there, a Nanlite Forza 500B2. The sunlight coming through the window is being diffused by the curtain and is nice and soft, so we'll do the same and add a softbox, with a layer of stronger diffusion in front of it to soften it as much as possible. I've also added an egg crate grid to it which controls the spread of the light, focusing it more directly on our subject and preventing it from spilling everywhere. Next, we'll take our second strongest light, a Forza 60B, and use it to recreate some of the natural ambient fill light. This will also diffuse and make nice and soft by using a lantern. This creates more of a soft spread of light. As you can see here, it hits the little plant on the table. This mimics the spread and quality of natural ambient sunlight bouncing off a wall. Finally, I rigged a little tube light on an extended C-stand arm as a backlight. This ever so slightly adds to the feel of the light coming from the back window. Now for our third variable, color. To me, the brightness of high-key lighting feels like it would go well with a warm morning look, so I cranked all the color temps on my lights to 5000 Kelvin, which is just a bit warmer than normal sunlight. The 500B also comes with a cool new feature of being able to adjust the amount of magenta or green tint to the light, so I added a bit of magenta, which to my eye helps give a bit of warmth to the skin tones. And there we have it, a high-key look, this time with added artificial lighting that should still feel quite natural. Let's take away those lights and create a new low-key look with only natural light. Rather than being bright like the high-key look, low-key lighting accentuates shadows and darker tones and usually has an overall higher contrast between areas of light and shadow. Since we're not allowed to use any lights, we'll keep the same positioning, quality, and color of light as before. However, we're going to change our overall exposure. To prevent those window highlights from blowing out like they did for the high key look, we'll lower the exposure using an ND filter on the front of the lens, until we can still read information on the window and it's not blown out. This leaves the frame looking much moodier than before, even though the only change made was in exposure, not in lighting. This creates plenty of shadows across the frame, which may work as a nice look for some stories, however, may be a bit too dark for others. So let's see if we can't find a middle ground between the very shadowy low-key natural light look and the high-key look by introducing some film lights. We'll use almost the same placement for our key light as before, but this time instead of being more in front of the character, we'll bring it around a bit more until it's right on the edge of the frame and is lighting more from the side. This will create just a bit more contrast, as less light will fall on the side of her face nearest to the camera. We'll go ahead and turn on the same backlight as before, however this time we'll leave our full light off. If you compare the high key lighting shot that uses a full light and the low key shot without one, you'll see that not illuminating the one side of her face creates a gentle shadow on the side that favors the camera, therefore creating more contrast. Because I've moved the key light around, there's less light that spills on the wall behind her, which also makes it feel like more of a low-key look. On top of this, there's a slight difference in color. Because the low-key look is a bit moodier, I cooled down the color temperature on my fixture from 5000 Kelvin to 6000 Kelvin. So there we go, a low-key look that was achieved with motivated lighting by simply eliminating the fill. 4 different looks, 2 created without any lights and 2 created using artificial sources. Lighting is always subjective and should change depending on the nature of the story you are telling. This look may be better suited for commercial applications, while this look works for a film with more dramatic content. But besides the look, what other advantages does using lights provide? Perhaps most importantly, using lights creates a consistent look, which will hold up for much longer periods of shooting. If it takes a couple of hours to shoot a scene using only natural light, the look of the ambience may have completely shifted as clouds came over or the sun got flagged by a building. This means that the consistency and continuity when cutting to different shots will be off. Using film lights means that even if the natural light changes, the artificial light should maintain the continuity of the look, which means you will be able to shoot for longer. Also, relying purely on natural light means you have limited to no control over the look of the image. For this video, I could pick a day and a specific time where I knew we would get strong sunlight, but this isn't always the case. If you need an interior to look warm and sunny, but it rains that day and you don't have any lights, then there's not much you can do. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification. As usual, a special thanks to all the patrons for your continued support of the channel. Otherwise, until next time, thanks for watching and goodbye.